All right. So this is Matthew Kilbride and Yilu's video for this module. So we watched the two high school videos. I'm gonna go first. So first, in the regular classroom, I thought the overall learning environment was pretty negative. And the teacher didn't have a lot of energy. So you notice when the kids came into class, they didn't sit down. One student was sitting on desk. The teacher started the class before all the students had entered, which seemed like a problem. But there were other procedures in the class that were good. When the students come into class, they knew to get a pencil when they walked in. They had like the silent hand thing when they wanted to ask a question. The teacher made sure that, don't talk while others are talking when they did their presentation. And then at the end of class, they gave out the candy. There's another kind of procedure as a reward. But I think a lot of the time the students didn't really follow the class all that well. Students were sleeping. The teacher told them to go get laptops and nobody really did it. So my recommendations for that teacher would be do a lot of modeling to show the students how to do it before you ask them to do something. I think the students really need more modeling in the class so they understand what's going on. Another big one was some students were sitting behind the teacher, so you couldn't really see them. I think you want to have all your students sitting in front so you can communicate. I also think it'd be good if he prepared some visuals for the class. Like it was him talking. When he explained things, could he show a picture or some images so students know what he's talking about? And then also when the students presented, I'd have them come to the front of the class because those students, they were just sitting in the back and sitting wherever they were, have them in the front and make them the center of attention. And then the last recommendation I would have for that teacher is at the end of class, he finished, like he just finished right away, nothing without any real summary or preview. So I would say kind of work on your end of class, make it more official. So moving over to the virtual classroom. The virtual classroom, also, it was very subdued and quiet. I thought it was not really a positive learning environment. Some recommendations I'd have for him were, make sure students' faces are in the camera. Lots of students didn't have their cameras on, which I think is a big problem. Other students, their cameras were on, but their face wasn't in it. So it doesn't really mean much. And actually, similar to the first class, I think the online class, you needed to do more modeling. Like they were towing the Venn diagram. But I really think you need to model it first and show them how to do it. Like give them an example and then let them do it. So again, I think modeling is very good for a good classroom environment. The students seem very quiet. They seem very reserved and shy. So I think when you're talking to the students in the online classroom, you need to ask more specific questions. Like don't ask the general questions that nobody answers.
Right.
Ask them a question that, right, there's an answer. Ask the question that has an answer. And then if the students want to say more after that, they can, but ask a direct question first, and then they can respond. Also, I think at the beginning of class, he just kind of started, and I would recommend telling them what the objectives and the goals are for the class, because just kind of came in and said hi, and then they immediately started the task. So those are a bunch of my recommendations for the two guys. I thought they were both pretty not the best learning environments. All right, but that was me. How about you?
Yeah. I totally agree with you. So I'll start with the first one. So first about the norms, I think. So for the routines, I kind of like the way. So at the beginning, the teacher greets the students by the door,
Right.
which I think is positive and good. So he has like kind of chat with the students before the class, I think, which is can make kind of like interactions and make the class climate like positive and warm, right? But when like actually the class starts, I can tell there's a lot of behavior problems in the class. As you mentioned, there are like some students sleeping on the desk, and some students put the hoodie on. So it feel like they don't want to interact or actually learning, they're just doing their own stuff. So I remember there's one guy, and then the teacher asked the guy to leave the classroom because he was like playing with his chair. So he talked with the student, and I think he asked him to leave, which I think is good. So for the suggestions for this teacher, first, I think he needs very clear guidance first. For example, when the students come to the classroom, maybe nobody should play their cell phone, because I saw like several kids like playing cell phone in the classroom. So I think for norms and for the routine, he should ask like no cell phone playing. And also for the seats, you also mentioned that I think for the seats, maybe the teacher can thinking about to arrange the seats so the students can actually see him and see the monitor like better, right? And also for the time, you mentioned like the teacher starts kind of early, or I don't know, maybe the students just late, but there are many students just came and after the class already started. So maybe he can think about the time, or he can have some like functions for those who are tardy.
Right.
Yeah. And also to finish the class, maybe he can to review what he had talked about for today, and give them some assignment or just ask them some questions to check out whether they have learned something from this class. Yeah. And also for the online class, I think same way. Like first thing, I think the teacher he didn't ask the students to turn on the camera. So I think that's the big issue for online class, because you cannot see your student's facial expression. You can only see like maybe part of his face.
Right.
So which I think, yeah, it's like a big problem. And I like his greeting. So his greeting is very positive, and he reviewed the previous class, which I think is very good. And he had showed like a PowerPoint. So compared to the first teacher, at least he has like something prepared, well prepared, and showed the PowerPoint. And he asked students questions, so we have some interactions. And I feel like the climate is kind of positive, because I remember he asked students questions and nobody answered, and he just says, "No worries, I will go through again," something like that.
Yeah.
So I think like, yeah, basically the climate is positive. And for suggestions, I think at least for the routine, every time when the students log in, he should say, "Please turn on your camera and please turn on or mute your microphone." And then when students try to answer the question, he can say, "Now you can turn on your microphone," something like that, because I remember there's some audio issues. And also for the interaction, I feel, although I like the interaction, but I feel it's not that positive. Maybe he can ask some like open questions to give the students some space to answer those questions. And also he can not only like call out student's name, he can ask the student to call out the peer's name, which is maybe more fun and more interactive.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's all yeah, that's all I'm thinking about the two classes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah.
Good.
Sounds like we had
Yes.
many of the same opinions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I'm gonna stop recording now.